Now, in its 11th year, this is GabNet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
New York City. Yeah, this is the Ramble, and I'm Alex. Everybody, this is Ed Krampf. We talked to him a while back, and we're talking to him again. And during the break, we were talking about health. You know, when two older people get together, it becomes an organ recital. You know, we start talking about, oh, so what did you have? And I had this, and I've got this, and you know, I trump everybody. I had cancer twice, you know. So, but you know, at my age, I wake up in the morning and say, "What is it's going to get me?" You know, and I always ask the doctors, like the guy for the leukemia. I said to him, "Well, I said to the guy for the prostate, I said, is this the thing that's going to kill me?" And he looked at me and he went, "No," like, "You idiot." And that it was the same answer I got from the leukemia guy. Is this the thing that's going to kill me? No. You know, I keep waiting for that thing. What is it going to be? You know, something's got to get me. And I just feel like there's this, you know, Mr. Death over my shoulder with his scythe looking at me saying, come on, come on. You know.
Well, you got hundreds of thousands of people who care about you, and you're still very important in their life. So we got to keep you around. We got to keep you healthy.
Yeah, well, I'm healthy. I'm more just tired a lot, you know, and I guess that's at 84 you should feel tired a lot, but I don't want to. It's not how I felt all my life, you know. So when it starts slowing down, you start worrying about it. But we were talking about, you know, talking to you, I guess people get a real insight into what it's like to run a radio station. And in your case, you never found it a hell of a lot of fun, did you?
Well, I did. I just went through a stage, I think I told you, at Live 105 when everyone was having a good time because we changed the format and I wasn't up front with the owners. So I always had that in the back of my mind that I was lying and I wasn't being true to myself. And it bothered me. Stuff like that really bothered me. And because I could not wholeheartedly let them know this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how outrageous and crazy our morning show is. By the way, my morning guy wants to interview Louis Farrakhan. Is that okay with you? You know, those kinds of things. It was difficult. Plus, all the agita around kind of what you were, your content and your comics, who were there as guests, and they'd say some outrageous things, and they'd go up to the line, they'd maybe go over, and then they come back, and they go over the line, and they come back. And then when they leave, I had to go clean up the mess. I had to
Yes.
Chinese for affirmative action every time Slayton was on, and Glad, and as I said, you know, deal with all the advertisers who were getting letters, not emails at their time or texts at their time. There's no social media, but complaints about the content of our show. And I've always believed, I'm a First Amendment guy, so I've always believed that God put the on-off button on a radio station for a reason, you know. And I used to love the calls I used to get about you, that they were going to complain to the FCC because you were so horrible, and they'd never listen to you again. And then a day later, well, here's what he said today. And then a day, here's what he said today. So it was like they couldn't stop, you know, listening to you.
Yeah.
And that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, having to deal with that. I mean, we did make little messes for you. I mean, they were little ones, you know.
Well, you know, back in those days, and this was like in the 80s, a general manager ran one radio station, just one. So all I had to do was run one. Years later, going back to the Bay Area and running a Clear Channel at that time, I ran 7 in San Francisco and 3 in San Jose. I ran 10 radio stations. And then they gave me regional responsibility. And at some point, I was up to 280 stations.
Oh, Jesus.
So you can't, and then, I'm in LA and I'm running 7 radio stations. So you can't give 7 radio stations, 10 radio stations the same treatment or the same attention as you have
Right.
one.
Right.
Can I give you an example of something? This will trigger a memory for you.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was 1987, maybe 1988. So you used to do breakfast with Bennett. Everybody knows those big events that we used to have at various clubs around the Bay Area. But on Christmas time, he did something special. It was a Monday night in December. We did dinner with Schwarzman.
Supper with Schwarzman.
Okay. And we're at the Fairmont Venetian Room. Dick Bright and his orchestra, the comics, the whole thing. It was a big deal. I mean, it's really, really big. So I had invited some clients from Los Angeles
I
to
know
come
the
up.
story you're going to tell. Go ahead.
Yeah. Some clients from Los Angeles to come up, along with their national reps to come on board as well. So because I'm running one radio station, okay, I can deal with all this stuff, and I sit and I make the reservations for them to fly on, remember, PSA Airlines, to come up on that Monday night on the 3:30 flight from Los Angeles. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're all scheduled to come up on the 3:30 flight from Los Angeles. We're going to pick them up in a limo. We're going to bring them to the Fairmont. So they'll be there for the start of the show, which I think started at 6 o'clock. So around that Wednesday, before the Monday, I'm thinking 3:30. Let's see, there's going to be traffic coming up to 101. This time. You know what? I'm going to put them on the 3 o'clock flight. I'm going to switch the flight.
Right.
Because I want them to get there earlier, not later. So what happened was we're waiting at the Fairmont. At the Fairmont Venetian Room. We're waiting for the group to come up from Los Angeles, and we hear that a plane went down in the Santa Barbara Hills, a PSA jet.
It was actually hijacked.
But by a former employee on the plane. But my point was, my first instinct was, oh my God, I kill these people by switching the flight.
Yes.
Okay, I kill these people. How am I going to live the rest of my life with that on me? Okay, I already told you I take things very hard. Well, it turned out that the 3 o'clock flight that they were on landed fine. The 3:30 flight that they were scheduled to be on before I moved them was the one that crashed. So in essence, I saved their lives. And there are several people on that plane who I'm still in touch with. Actually, I hired a sales manager in Los Angeles, Carol Terakawa, who was on that flight. I hired her. There are media buyers in Los Angeles that I never missed a buy from for the rest of my career because I had moved that flight. But the point is, if I was running 10 radio stations, they'd be dead because I wouldn't have had that focus and that attention to move that flight and even think about it. It would have been enough. I would have given it. I would have delegated to somebody else.
But literally, if they had been on that other flight, they all would have been dead. You would have killed our advertisers.
Yes. Should have been a terrible thing.
Terrible. Horrible.
Yeah. But it's one of the things in my career I look at and just say, wow, that happened. Life happens and shit happens. But going back to your question about running a radio station, when you ran one radio station, that was your baby. You woke up in the morning thinking about it. You listened to it all day long. You went to sleep thinking about it. And you did everything you could to improve the ratings, the quality, improve the sales, the marketing, everything else. That's all that mattered. That was your whole life.
Yeah.
And then you're like with 10 other radio stations, and you have a conservative station, a liberal station, a country station, a smooth jazz station. I mean, you got to keep moving around and try to understand it all. And that's challenging. And actually, those were good times too. They really were.
Yeah, they were. But what happened was that the second time you fired me was when you went over to Clear Channel, and you had all these stations, but you needed somebody to do. Here's what happened. I was working I lost my job over at where did I lose it? And then I got at Live 105, And then I went up to work with my friends at Play TV up in Sacramento to start the world's first internet video channel. Okay. You got to remember, I invented podcasts. I did them when I was out of work. And I literally had somebody created a program for me where you could put it on your computer and it would go to my site. And if it saw there was a new program, it would download it. So when you came home, you had fresh Alex Bennett waiting for you. So what does that sound like? Anyway, I go over and I get a job. They asked me to come over to CNET. Remember CNET? You should remember it because one of your stations,
9:10 a.m.
9:10, they did what was called an LMA, which is they rent the channel from the owner. And then they do whatever they're going to do. Well, they fired me finally. They got rid of me because I wasn't serious enough for their channel, right? And they had a bad game plan anyway. They thought that, we're playing to the tech professional. That was how they put it. And I'm going, you do realize, this is when the whole collapse was happening in Silicon Valley. I said, you do realize there are no tech professionals left who have a job. But anyway, they let me go. 2 weeks later, they give up the channel. They turn it back to you guys.
Well, they stopped paying their LMA fee.
They started paying their LMA fee, so immediately Clear Channel takes it back. And then you call me and say, would you come down here and do the morning show for a while till we figure out what we're going to do with it? So basically, 2 weeks after I was fired, I was back on that same channel. I felt I felt very satisfied with that.
Did I pay you? Did I pay you for that?
You paid me for it, yeah, yeah. I don't know how much, but
You mean you don't know how little?
I'll tell you what it did is because at that time, a lot of stations were in one place. In other words, your competition could be in a studio down the hall, okay? So I would take a break, on the hour when the news went on or whatever, and I would go into the hall, and so would Jim Lang, who was working at, I can't remember, KSFO?
KBLA.
Okay. I can't remember. There were so many stations there. And we would sit there talking for like 5 minutes. I loved him because politically, did you know he was a big left-winger?
No, I didn't talk to him that much. I was very respectful of him. I went on a cruise, a station cruise with him and his wife.
Yeah.
And as much as I was excited about going on a cruise with Jim Lang, his wife was a former Miss America.
Yes, you're right.
Yeah, 1960.
Yeah. And he didn't meet her on the dating game, by the way.
No, he didn't. I remember her telling us that her skill on the Miss America pageant was sewing.
Sewing?
Well, her name was Nancy Fleming.
Yeah.
That was her.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah. They were. Jim was a beautiful.
He was a nice guy. Man, really nice man. I liked him a lot. But anyway, so I'm working this thing for you, and all of a sudden the bosses from Atlanta come in. Right? Were they in a station in Atlanta? Was that where they were? It was.
They were in. They were. Those guys were in San Antonio, Texas.
San Antonio, wherever they were. The guy who ran programming is the guy that pretty much took talk shows and moved them to the right, to the extreme right. Mm-hmm. And he came into town and heard me, and I think said to you, "Is this guy kidding?"
Well, he didn't understand local radio, and he didn't understand who you were and what you meant to the marketplace and really what we're trying to do. So this was just one that, I'm proud of moves like that because it's different and it's another shakeup. And I just think that your fans were FM-based fans, and what we see is like 75% of those people are never going to go to the AM dial. So I think we didn't advertise, so they weren't really going to find you. You weren't doing exactly the same show, but I just put you on just to see if we could attract an audience.
Right.
At the same time, that station was going to be more to the right than to the left. Now, going back to Jim Lang, about a year later, I think, Air America came to me and said, we like to get on your station in San Francisco. And I said to him, well, my station in San Francisco, cable, 960, is making about $1 million in cash flow. That was okay, which is pretty good for an AM station
At that time. Yeah.
at that time. And they said, well, we'll guarantee you $1 million, and we want to put the station on. So that's what we did. So then I had Air America on the left, and then KNEW on the right. And what we tried to do at that time was, I remember we had this big promotion at City Hall where left meets right. And we had a kind of a fun debate. Back in those days, people on the left and people on the right, they seemed to get along a lot better.
Right.
Wasn't as crazy as it's gotten now, where
Yeah.
they hate each other, kind of thing like that. Gavin Newsom came in and he was the moderator, and we had people from both sides, and we had a really nice time. It was really a nice event.
Now, were you told to get rid of me?
No,
Then why did you get rid of me?
because we needed to put conservative programming on the station because they had hired Michael Savage.
Oh,
Would-
okay. All right.
So you and Michael Savage's bookends would probably not work really well. And you'd probably wind up killing each other in the hallway, during a break. So we put him on, and the station had 0 ratings. There were no ratings at all. We were left with nothing.
Right.
And we got it to a 2 share, which is, San Francisco, that's decent. They don't have a 1 share now, in San Francisco in terms of what they're doing.
Yeah.
For that. So again, it was an attempt to kick up some sand, and we tried. And I think I was pretty upfront with you at that time. This is kind
Well,
of
in the very
experiment.
beginning, you said I may not be able to give you this job forever.
Right.
Yeah, this is a temporary measure until we figure out what we're going to do. So when you let me go, I wasn't, disappointed. It didn't come I wasn't blindsided by it. But I said, there goes Cramp again. He's got me
Yeah, there we
twice,
go. I understand.
And then at one point we had a meeting in San Francisco when I was finally at Sirius XM.
Yeah.
And you asked me if I knew anybody that wanted to do a morning show, and I kind of thought you were asking me.
Well, you had a big fan of Walter Sabo at that time, who I really respect.
Yeah.
Walter loved you and pushed you, and
Yeah.
and
Well, he got me my job at Sirius XM.
I will say this: I've been doing this for 45 years, still kicking around the radio industry, and you, to me, are singularly the most talented, gifted person who ever sat behind a microphone that I witnessed.
Really?
Because of your wit, the way you think on your feet, I think you could have made a lot more money in the industry had you been a little bit more abrasive of the influencer role that a lot of these guys will do right now.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of hard for you to ingest something and say, "I love this. Come buy it." That kind of stuff. But the utmost respect for you, and I would say kind of was the highlight of my career of working with you. And again, I've worked with a lot of the greats, through the years. I've been blessed to work with almost everybody I wanted to work with.
Yeah. But anyway, at that meeting, you said, "Do you know anybody who wants to do it or willing to pay good money for it, or whatever it takes to get somebody?" And I basically said no. I didn't know anybody. But I thought if I had said yes, I could do it, you probably would have said, "Well, when are you moving to San Francisco?" And but I was already at Sirius XM, and it was later in my career, and I had a job that I figured I'd have for, as long as I wanted it, although I was wrong about that. But I at least lasted close to 10 years there.
Yeah.
So it was giving up a solid, it's like I said, I said this about another job. I said, well, the problem is, am I gonna continue to sit here and make, and I'll just give you a figure, $100,000 a year for the next 10, 15 years, or do I want to take a job where I'm going to make $300,000, but it might only last 6 months? It's better to keep the job that's not paying you as much.
So on when we switched to Air America, just so
Yeah.
you know this, and who was the morning man from Air America at the time? The comic from Saturday Night
Al
Live.
Franken.
Al Franken
Well, you
was the
see,
morning
I
guy.
was involved in that whole thing with Air America, but I was one of the guys they never hired. In fact, they created the whole station originally for one particular personality. I can't remember who it was now.
He
And
was
by
in the
the
after-
time they bought the station went on the air, it had different owners, and that guy wasn't even working it.
Right. Well, what we did there with the morning show was everything was we got to be hyper local, very local.
Yeah.
So what I tried to do was remember the success we had with a live studio audience.
Right.
Okay. So we hired Willie Brown
Mm-hmm.
and Will Durst,
Will Durst. Yeah.
keeping it real with Will and Willie in the morning. And across the street from Willie's office, which was down by where the ships come in or the ferries come in.
Yeah.
It was this new hotel that was built across the street, this Italian hotel. So we invited people to come every morning to watch the show live
Mm-hmm.
and get free coffee and sit and watch a morning show. So after about 2 weeks, I kept showing up and I kept remembering the line around the block waiting to get into your show every morning
Mhm.
on 9th Street when we were in the Wino district back in the day. And no one showed up.
Jeez.
Willie Brown actually cut my ratings in half. And he was the mayor and supposed to be representative of the the left wing community.
Yeah.
Will was great, but Willie was kind of off topic and off subject, and we were paying him a boatload of money to do that.
Wow.
So, again, so all these things I was told, you got to be hyper local, super local, all that other stuff. It really didn't work. What would have been more hyper local than having the mayor on, your local morning
Right,
show?
but you're assuming the mayor can
guy.
do. But you're assuming the mayor can do a radio show. It's like, for instance, whenever people wanted to compete against me, they went out and hired comics to do morning shows. Well,
Right.
comics don't work like I work. I work saying I've got to do 4 hours or 3 hours a day, 5 days a week, so I know how to pace myself and how to structure that. A comedian only knows how to go up for 40 minutes, and they've got 40 minutes worth of material. And a lot of these guys they hired to do morning shows that were comics ran out of material after the first half hour.
Well, that happened to George Lopez in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
Well, only so many times you can make fun of Mexicans drinking beer before 10
Yeah,
in the morning.
exactly.
That was his act. That was his whole act.
Yeah.
What he's doing.
I don't know if you did we have Larry Brown on doing traffic while you
Yeah.
were there? Yeah.
Bubbles, yeah.
So were you there when he had a sponsor which was Kaiser? Okay. And he said, brought to you by Kaiser, also known as doctor-assisted suicide.
No.
And then you heard from Kaiser?
I'd probably still be at the client's office trying to get out of it. No, I don't believe I was there.
Oh,
at that
then it
time.
may have
I don't remember.
Pat may have had to deal with it.
Well, you would have kissed that advertiser goodbye at that moment, but that's funny. It's a funny bit,
Yeah.
The beautiful, one of the great things about your show was, again, you're trying to fill 20 hours a week of
Yeah.
time?
Yeah.
And so you can't be funny all the time. There's good spots, there's bad times. But people would wait for that moment a couple of times a week where
magic happened.
That magic moment that they will take away for the rest of their lives and never forget.
Well, the thing was, what you have to do, at least in my theory, is you have to do a show that allows for that to happen.
Well, where
If
are you going to hear
you're
a show
too safe, it'll never happen.
Well, where are you going to find a show that has what was the show? Which was oh boy, it was Buddy Love singing to who was the actor or the performer that Doc Timothy Leary and Buddy Love singing a duet together, or Buddy Love and Karen Black singing together. Those kinds of moments
Yeah.
were outrageous. They were crazy. Plus, you had Bobcat on, you had Robin Williams on. I mean, we'd have everybody on.
Well,
And
I didn't have under Live 105. Robin was never on. He was on the Quake once with me. Once,
right.
you know.
Well, I lied. I was telling people
Because
Robin
I
Williams-
always had kind of a contentious relationship with Robin because I didn't like him stealing material from other comics, which he was famous for doing. And I just said, I said to him once, I said, you don't do that. You just don't do that.
Did he show up at one of your shows in San Francisco, one of your comic shows?
He may have, I don't remember. He was there. He was always around. But we had kind of a contentious relationship. So he never regularly came on my show like other comics. But I mean, Bob Goldthwait, for instance, his career was made on my show. It was a wonderful time, and I thank you for having created the canvas for me
Sure.
to work on.
Well, you asked me about what it was like running radio stations and the whole thing. Let me just tell you that it's a fabulous experience. Nobody today has the job we had 25, 30 years ago because we were in charge of everything, and we had control of everything. And so running the stations was wonderful. The thing that wasn't wonderful was working for the owners.
Yeah.
Because I was I always said when I was going to retire, I was going to write a memoir.
Mhm.
The book was going to be called The 5 Biggest Assholes I Ever Worked For. But 3 of them made the list twice. To rethink the whole thing. But I've worked for every one of them.
Oh boy.
And aside from that, the experience has been absolutely a joy and wonderful. And I'm real grateful. I'm real blessed.
One of the things I find most pleasant is that after all these years and the fact that you fired me twice, we are still sitting here talking like this and have great respect for each other. You were doing your job, I was doing my job, and they weren't the same job. Okay? If anybody thinks they were, they weren't. Mine, I was there to try and make him money. He was out there to try and go out and make the money. Okay? So, I mean, it was a wonderful relationship. Listen, this has been terrific, and let's do this again. Okay? I think people will enjoy this. They'll enjoy hearing about radio and how it works, or how it did work. It doesn't work that way anymore. And by the way, Ed doesn't work as a general manager anymore. He works as an agent, basically.
Well, I represent a fabulous talent. His name is Pielin,
Mhm.
and he's probably one of the most influential Hispanic broadcasters in America today. He has been for the past 25 years. I consult another company called Sun and Fun Media.
Mhm.
That also has another sister company called Key Networks. So I'm still involved tangentially in the business. I work from home. I live in the desert in Southern California, Indian Wells.
And you work out on your
This thing has kept me alive. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Hey, listen, let's do this soon, okay?
Got a
And
deal,
stick
Alex.
around. Let me talk to you after this. But, ladies and gentlemen, that's my former boss, Ed Cramp.
Now, in its 11th year, this is Gabnet. Talk like you've never heard it before.
Well, thank you very much, Ed. I appreciate it. That was a rerun of an interview that we did with him a little while back, and I felt it was worth playing again because it's you get to know a little bit about radio and how it works and so on by listening to him. Anyway, we're here tonight doing another show tonight, and we'll see how many people decide to call on a Thursday. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Already we have 4 people ready to talk to us. So let's see who they are. Okay, here they come. There's Jeff, and there is Alan, and there is Josh, and Richard Braun, and
Good evening, Alex.
yep. Oh, I think we're okay now, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm on.
I think you're okay.
Okay.
Okay, and here comes Tom Yamaguchi. Oh boy, these are all people who are here Boy, all of a sudden, I didn't think we were going to have anybody, and all of a sudden, we have a lot of people. Hello, Tom Yamaguchi. How are you?
Fine. I really liked that interview. I missed it, I guess, before.
Yeah.
So it was great hearing, especially the story about you're getting fired the second time.
Oh yeah, no, he fired me a couple of times, and I still like him to this day. He's a good guy.
I have a vivid memory of sending a very angry fax from my computer. I've tried finding it. I lost it, but what happened was when you got fired that time, it was the weekend. The previous weekend, we had engaged in the anti-Iraq war buildup.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually the second of two demonstrations. We had one in February, then one in March,
Mm-hmm.
and then Bush invaded Iraq, Tuesday the following day. But in the meantime, Monday morning I come in and listen, and they had hired two extremely right-wing guys from out of Sacramento. And they were just making fun of all those silly people that were marching in the streets in San Francisco and really saying the most insulting
Yeah,
things.
they were coming out of Sacramento. Okay,
Yeah.
So that was the second time I was fired, right?
Yeah, that was in 2003.
Yeah, because that was the time that I was working at what was it called at the time? It's now called iHeartRadio.
KNEW. It was KNEW.
Yeah, but it was iHeartRadio, which became iHeartRadio, and it was called Cap Cities. I think no, it wasn't Cap Cities. Oh God, I'm trying to remember now. I don't
remember. I just know. Yeah, it was. It was previously the CNET.
Yeah,
when you were working, and I discovered you on CNET, and then went with you till the KNEW and that short period of time.
Yeah, to be honest with Ed, he never brought me on to do that morning show saying that it was going to be anything permanent.
Well,
and I kind of did it, and I kind of did it. I kind of did it as a favor to him.
Mm-hmm.
So ultimately, he had to let me go because the bosses wanted to see me gone because they were right wing.
Yeah, but the timing was absolutely terrible. I mean, here we were going into
Clear
a war.
Channel. That was the name of the company, Clear Channel.
And they brought these two. I mean, they were jerks.
They're still on.
They really were.
They're still on.
I'm sure they are, but they were total jerks.
They're terrible. They're mediocre. They're horrible.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the names now. That's how mediocre they are.
Armstrong and Getty.
Armstrong and Getty. Yeah, I think that was it.
I could say, how could it be? Because that sounds like two oil men.
Yeah, Armstrong and Getty. Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
but anyway, yeah. So I appreciate the interview. I really.
I'm glad you did.
Glad you put it back on again.
And hello to Richard Braun. How are you, Richard?
Hi, good.
You look comfy in that bed. My, what a back bolster you got. Is that a king size?
Yeah.
Yeah. We never
Why,
buy
Marge?
king size. I don't know why. I think Margie thinks they're too big.
I agree.
You agree, Jeff? You don't like
Yeah,
them?
they're too big.
What do you what do you have, Josh? King, queen?
We have a queen size bed.
A queen size bed. Okay. So that's a king you got there. So you never have to even be close to whoever's sleeping with you, right?
That's the problem.
Oh, I don't know. At a certain age, and I snore a lot and so on. Actually, at times we were thinking I should spend more time in the guest room, because it's got a lot of snoring going on there, and things like that. So, and how are you, Josh? You okay?
Me? Yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, and you, Alan?
I'm doing good. Queen size.
Queen size. You have a queen size, and you don't sleep with anybody.
I can sleep on a bed this wide. I don't roll around.
So why did you get a king size bed?
A queen size.
A queen. Oh, you have a queen. Oh, okay, that's
well,
fine.
because I had two big dogs that slept with me. One right under the other one.
See, I would get a queen if I wasn't married or whatever. I would use a queen too. I always bought queens. Okay, never bought doubles. You know. So
Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
I've always had a queen size bed,
yeah,
except for when I was a kid. Then I had a whatever my parents bought me. I don't know.
yeah. Yeah. So what's happening that we should talk about? Anything?
How about if I make a suggestion here? Just
What? Do
real
we
quick.
sign off early and not talk about anybody?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is kind of cute to me. The past 3 times that people are signing on, before you get a chance to say hi to the different people, you bring Tom on, and he's a great guy to listen to. But he starts right in like he's been on the show for 15 or 20 minutes, Ray. And I think it's fun. I think it's cute. You know, it's a nice thing. But he doesn't give you time to say hello to anybody else. He just boom. You bring him on.
I went around and said hello to
right
every.
on it.
Was anybody else bothered by that?
I wasn't bothered by it. I'm just not
I'm sorry. I'm
Better
sorry.
than it's
There's
better.
nothing to be sorry about.
It's better than having to listen to you.
I guess so. Yeah, I'll agree with that. Everybody raise it. Yeah. Yeah. I usually sit here and wait for you to say hello to all of us. But the past 3 times that I've been on the show, you brought Tom on. Tom has immediately gone into his story. Or
Well,
whatever.
also I bring Tom out because Tom doesn't call that often, and so when I have him, I want to make him happy so he stays there. You know.
I think he'll stay there.
Yeah.
He's a smart guy and he's a good guy to listen to. So, even though he lives close to me.
Even though he lives close to you?
Well, yeah, I think it's a 30 or 40 mile separation.
Well, that isn't near you,
Closer than you are.
huh? And I'm
Closer
keeping
than you are.
keeping
Closer
this,
than anybody else
and
on the
I'm
show.
keeping this distance too. You can bet your
Yeah.
life on that. You know.
Especially at the rate you're getting. You know,
Yeah.
for rent.
Yeah. Are you planning on coming to New York soon?
No.
No? Okay, good. Let's see here.
If I would, I'd stay with Tony.
You'd stay with Tony? You're welcome to it.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd have to bring a noose for me or for him. I don't know who.
I don't know. Is he calling? He hasn't called in the last while.
I think he called once last week, didn't he?
I think so. I'm not quite sure. But anyway. So, it's there's this bromance that broke up that I feel real bad about. You know,
Elon and
I mean, it just all of a sudden it's kind of like escalated. You know, it's
I said
gotten
this
worse
last
and worse. I mean, Elon's now saying, "Oh, and by the way, the Epstein files contain Trump."
I love it.
But they didn't release it because Trump made sure it didn't get released.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, I said that last night. I said the bromance is over. The romance, I think, is what I said last night. Yeah.
Yeah.
They both want to have all the air in the room, and it just wasn't going to last.
No, they were two highly egotistical people.
Absolutely.
It's just the fact is that Trump can't really win against Musk because he hasn't got the money Musk has, and he needs Musk's money.
Absolutely.
Okay, and he's not going to get it anymore. And so now they're trying to figure out ways to deport Musk back to South Africa. You know, it's not going to happen. Isn't he? He's an American citizen, isn't he now? Yeah.
Yeah, he's got dual
Not going to
citizenship.
happen. You know. Oh yeah, we'll just send him back to, you know. Of course, Trump has got to hate him because Trump is just very thin-skinned.
The trouble with Musk is, I mean, this is kind of sarcastic, is he's got enough money to take Trump out, to hire a squad of whatever.
Well, no, forget about that. You know,
I mean, I really hope it doesn't.
I
come
don't
to
think
that.
he would even think about doing that. However, I don't know that Trump wouldn't think about killing Musk. Yeah.
And he could probably get away with it. He can get away with every
Well,
one.
it's in his duties as president of the United States, right?
Yep, a federal judge just denied Trump denied something with Harvard, him kicking
Oh,
students out. Yeah, it just came across.
They say they can't. Yeah, but now it's going to have to go to the Supreme Court, and it's.
Yeah. I just got the first couple lines here. It says judge temporarily blocks Trump effort to deny visas to Harvard students.
Yeah.
Temporarily.
Yeah. Well,
Until
that's
some
gonna
other
go around and around and around and around.
And one of the schools he's cutting their credentials that they can't be a school anymore or something. Is it Harvard again? He's got a hard-on for one of these universities.
Credentials? What kind of credentials?
It was in the news yesterday. I don't know. Does somebody else see it? I didn't pay close attention to it.
Well, if you're going to mention it here, you should have paid close attention
okay,
to
I'm
it.
sorry. It just he said something. I think it was Harvard. The Department of Education was going to take their credentials away from him to be a university. I don't know how you can do that. It's a private university. It's not a public school.
Most of these universities are private universities. Right. Yeah, they are not,
Come on, Tom. This is what you're good at. Research.
Mhm.
I don't know what you're talking about. I'm sorry. Don't know.
Yeah.
Wasn't that the first college in the United States?
Which one?
Harvard.
Harvard? I believe
I thought
maybe.
Stanford was first.
Well,
You're
no,
right.
no. It would make sense that it would be Harvard because it's in Boston, and Boston, of course, is early United States. California, no. Stanford, I don't think became a school until when? Tom, do you know?
I don't know. I think
Late 19th century,
doing the looking up right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Layla Stanford named it after his son that died.
Right.
Do you know what else Leland Stanford is I can't talk tonight. Responsible for? The invention of motion pictures. Well, it's because he and another guy had an argument about when a horse was running in a race, we're all 4 feet off the ground at any one time. So what Stanford and this guy did was they had somebody rig up some cameras,
right,
with
little photo cameras. The horse tripped.
Yeah,
the horse tripped the line that set off the cameras.
Yeah, and finally they determined the horse at one point did have all 4 feet off the ground. And then they started playing all these things back one after the other, and all of a sudden the horse was moving. Ta-da! Movies. Okay. Yeah.
You're right.
And it was Leland Stanford, am I correct?
I don't know if it was Leland Stanford, but I know the story of the experiment.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, so now everybody learned something tonight off this program. That maybe is the only thing it's good for anymore.
Yeah, I looked it up. It says Trump signs a proclamation to suspend visas. No, that's already been talked about. Foreign students. Sorry, I'm trying to restrict foreign students. I thought there was something in the news. Immediately block. This is all the foreign students. Cancel federal funds. That was 8 days ago.
Well, when you finally find it without describing every inch of what you're reading.
Yeah.
Why is he going after Harvard?
He denies it, but a lot of people believe that he applied to Harvard when he was applying to schools, and they turned him down.
Yeah, well, so would 7-Eleven. Jesus.
So, I mean, and it could be. That could be. I mean, he obviously has a hard-on for Harvard. Why, I have no idea.
Well, they fought back.
Yeah,
well, forget about fighting back. That wasn't the only part of it. I mean, he went after them to begin with, and then they, of course, fought back. But he had it out for him.
he fought, but Colombia gave in. So I mean, you know,
And look what's happened to Colombia. Now he's asking for more.
right?
And they're
that's
having,
why Harvard decided to fight back.
yeah, that's why you don't give in to Donald Trump.
Right.
And that's why they're trying to tell Sherry Redstone, don't settle the 60 Minutes suit from Donald Trump. He's not going to win it. There's no way he can win it. But if she's willing to pay him $100 million or something like that, and everybody's saying, don't pay him. He's not going to stop.
Right.
You know. What?
Somebody said the other day that the reason why he's going after Harvard is because Barron Trump was denied entrance in the 4 years that Donald was no longer president.
Oh, really? Oh, that could be.
I don't know. I never looked it up. I don't know if it's true or not or what. But
yeah, and by the way, Sherry Redstone, it turns out, has thyroid cancer.
oh wow,
Yeah. As those things aren't bad enough already, you know.
they're treatable.
Huh? Yeah, it's pretty treatable. Yeah. But they always mention these things. I mean, I don't know. I should have made a bigger deal out of my cancers.
I think so.
You know, I mean, there was nothing because my doctors told me, no, this isn't going to kill you. And so I just went on with my business, you know?
Maybe Howard Stern would have had you on his show.
Probably. Well, no, but then he went around in his career wishing cancer on people. I don't know if you remember
really?
that. Yeah. And
What a loser.
Yeah, and in a way, I was kind of hoping he'd come down with it just to see what it was like. You know, nothing that would kill him, but you know,
Like brain cancer.
And we got of course our old friend here, Josh Wheeler. You haven't been paying attention much to the news, have you? You said you were getting tired of watching those people.
Oh, I definitely am. Yeah. I haven't paid too much attention. I caught a little bit of a headline of this deal from today. I didn't really read anything about it or whatever. Only what was unavoidable.
Well,
Stuff on the TV all day.
What do you mean? The stuff about Trump and Musk?
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously apparent from headlines or whatever that they have some sort of personal issue now, so not surprised. I mean, it's I don't see it, for anything because I mean it was inevitable and now it's here. So I mean I know that disappoints people, but I look at it like I mean
We all saw it coming. We all said
the radar, and now it's raining here. Wow,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it seems to me like Musk personally, put himself in a position where people who were buying his products, a lot of leftist people stopped buying his products because of his politics, and I would assume was hoping to make up for some of that loss by Trump-style people buying his products. Hence the whole thing at the White House and buy a Tesla and all that. And it would seem to me like this situation would now rule that possibility out probably because Trump's people are not going to stop supporting Trump, just because Musk says so. So if they don't buy his vehicles, and people who used to buy them don't buy his vehicles, I assume that doesn't leave a lot of people left to buy his vehicles.
Okay, first of all, yeah.
Maybe wrong.
Yeah, first of all, they say maybe the reason why he came out against Trump was because in the current big, beautiful bill, I hate that term, jeez.
Don't use it. Don't use it. Call it the bad bill.
Yeah, but how silly is this government going to get?
It keeps getting sillier. I don't know.
Sounds like Romper Room when he talks.
And I hope to hell that no war breaks out while he's in office because he's incapable of handling it. Totally incapable of handling it.
Yeah.
But
Tesla has gone down their stock.
So I don't know who buys the vehicles now. I mean, I
think that part of the reason why he did what he did, Musk, is he had to get back to selling cars again and so on, and he just wants to, keep.
Yeah, but like I said, it seems like all this stuff that he did was to get himself to like the top of the pyramid and make all this money. But now it seems like he's mismanaged it so badly in the last, I don't know, 6 months or a year that he's on the precipice of losing it all. It seems like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm wrong and I don't understand the situation, but, I mean, look, I saw two things that I agreed with today in a headline. Number one, Trump said the easiest way to save billions and billions and billions of dollars of government money is to cancel all his contracts. I'm completely in favor of that right now. If we could get that done before 11:26 p.m. Eastern time, I'm perfectly fine with that.
I disagree with
And
you.
Steve Bannon said that he thinks he's not a real American citizen and he should be deported on, and I'm completely on top of that one too. So
But
done immediately thereafter, that'd be fine.
Well, let me say that I do think that pulling back money from SpaceX, who has been primarily responsible for sending Americans up to the space station and then bringing them back, and something NASA seems to be rather incapable of since they got rid of the space shuttle. They've had to, until Musk, they had to come back on a Russian landing craft, So I would hate to see them quit allowing SpaceX to have money for doing these kind of things. I mean, they've been handling this better than just about anybody. So, I know that you don't like the idea.
They can put that money somewhere else and have someone else do it, or they can just steal his technology.
But you know what the strange thing is? They can. How much money do we say we give him a year for SpaceX? How many billions?
I don't know. I'm sure it's in the hundreds, I would assume.
Yeah, billions, yeah.
Never...
A lot of that money he can absorb and just do himself. He's got the money to do it with,
Well, I'm not so sure if he's going to have it. I mean, look, just make up some national security stuff and take it away from him. What's he going to do about it?
Yeah.
Is he going to shoot at us with his own army or whatever? I mean,
yeah.
It wouldn't be the first time the government stole someone's technology and used it for national security purposes.
We've been joined, by the way, by Tony.
Shed a tear for that guy. I mean,
we've been
did all that himself. So I'm fine with whatever. If he ends up living on the street, that's fine. Fine. Tell me where he's sleeping, and I'll walk by and make sure I don't give him a fucking dime. I'll walk by all I don't even have a fucking job right now, so I got nothing to do, as a matter of fact, other than walk back and forth up and down the street he's living on and tell him he can fucking eat a bag of dicks, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Fucking suck my fucking dick apart.
By the way, Ray, hold on a second. Ray, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. For some reason, it says my camera won't start. I get some error thing from Zoom. I don't know why.
Well, why don't you just sign out and sign back in?
Yeah, I will. Okay.
I like what Josh was talking about, I think he's right on target.
Who? What Josh is saying?
Josh, I think Josh
Well, look,
is right on target.
I mean, these are people who have been hurting us greatly. And I don't mind seeing Musk's fortunes suffering from his actions. But I do think there are certain things Musk is doing that have great value, and SpaceX is one of them. I don't care about Tesla. There are a lot of electric cars out there now. It doesn't matter, But the SpaceX thing, I think that's quite valuable. And I think the best thing that could happen is that he decides to sell SpaceX. And then they can get all the funding they need and so on and so forth. And the people who are currently working there are the best minds in the business anyway. And they could continue the work without having to deal with Musk and his ego imprinting himself on the whole on the whole project. But
I think if the Democrats take over in 2026, they can impeach Trump and indict Musk.
well, the latest thing is that Trump says he's going after Biden now.
Jeez.
Why?
For the way he stole the election
Oh, please.
and a bunch of other stuff too. Oh, look, there's the Invisible Man.
Hello. I am not the Invisible Man.
I think maybe you have yourself on the green screen
I
setting.
do. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn it on.
You get rid of that, and then there you go.
There you go, you're actually human.
I think it was better the other way, but that's just.
I do too.
Yeah, I like it the
Yeah.
other way. Yeah. Anyway, but I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know, because I was a big space nerd and all of that. I like what they've done with SpaceX, and I like what they're attempting to do, and what they're attempting to do, America needs, because NASA's not really doing it.
Well, they cut NASA. That's the problem.
Yeah.
I mean, they cut NASA, and that was, and a lot of it makes sense. I mean, it's time for the government to get out of it and to get more private companies into it. So it's not just SpaceX. I mean, you've got what's this, Amazon.
Yeah, but nothing's
The
happening
Blue
there.
Horizon and
No,
stuff. I mean,
no.
you've got other companies that are
Nothing's
coming
happening.
into it.
Nothing's happening with Blue Horizon. That's an amusement ride that you can take.
Space tourism. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's no serious space exploration involved there. It's just so Bezos can send his friends up in the rocket that looks like a penis.
But the point is, it is time for us to get into
Private business,
private companies
doing it. But look, Boeing tried it. How good was Boeing? They blew it back big time.
They're pretty.
Still early.
Huh?
Still early.
They're always pretty crappy about things.
Well, Boeing screwed it up. I mean, they had a lot of problems with Boeing to begin with, and then they send up a rocket they can't bring back. So I mean, that was not good. So Boeing isn't in the game. Bezos is not in the game. Anybody can do what he does. Sending a rocket up to where you start getting weightlessness, and then bringing it back after 4 minutes up there. Almost anybody can do with enough money. Okay, that's not space exploration either. And to call any of those people that go up there on that rocket astronauts really makes me mad. Okay, so I mean, and who's just about as bad as Musk? Bezos is just about as bad as Musk.
Yes.
So
Except you use Bezos's product, don't you?
well, what else can I do?
Right.
I would come up with something better than Amazon, and I'll be happy to use it. But I haven't found anything yet.
Neither have I.
Yes, Tony.
The funny thing, we were talking Amazon. You know what they didn't get though, Alex? Today, my brother bought me the new Nintendo game, and Amazon was not stocked with it from Nintendo.
Oh,
They were
really?
the only ones not to get it. Everybody else got it. Target, Walmart, GameStop, Costco. He actually got it from Costco. Amazon did not get it. I don't know what happened there. I have to read up.
You better get that thing up and running. if
Why
I'm
did
gonna
you want
save it.
that game anyway?
Oh, I love my Nintendo. I can't wait to play Super Mario Kart.
I mean, I have a PlayStation 5, and I love that.
I was going to do the PlayStation, but he said, which one do you want? I said, give me the Nintendo. He wanted to give me the PS5. I said, give me the Nintendo. Because I'm kind of a Mario guy.
Well, But anyway, the point I'm making is you've got all these people who are kind of evil, and which one do you get into bed with? Well,
I think when people get
Musk
to
is
that
ahead of the
level-
game in the space race. What are you going to say?
I think when people get to that level, they think they're invincible money
Could
wise.
be, yeah. Well, did you see what Musk said? He tweeted out that I think Musk could be Trump's downfall, actually, really.
Maybe
I would agree. I would agree.
Maybe they could wind up shooting each other in the foot.
Hopefully
He
Trump
tweeted
did-
out that. Did you see what he tweeted out, Alan? He said the reason why the Epstein files aren't
Yeah,
out
right.
because he's all over it, Trump.
Yeah,
Just
we talked
mentioned
to
that
Al, we
earlier.
talked to them.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Which
see the Tesla, according to the Wall Street Journal, just came out. Oh, sorry, Jeff.
That's all right.
yeah, Jeff, what did you want to say?
Well, I want to switch the discussion a little bit. I'm very interested in these new cars that drive without a person.
Yeah,
Has
well,
anybody actually
Tesla does
used
that.
one, or-
Tesla does that.
Yeah,
You're talking
it's
about? Are you talking about the Waymo, which is the cabs in California they use? That
Yeah.
are yeah. I plan to try one of those when I go out to San Francisco.
They're all over San Francisco.
Yeah, bring 3 seatbelts with you though.
And they're going to be having them open in the South Bay here now very soon.
They haven't been having accidents, have they?
No, not at a lower rate than regular cars.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So if you had a regular cab driver, it would probably be more dangerous, than
dangerous.
if you used Waymo. Yeah.
Yep.
I mean
I,
that.
would- I would like to get one. So
I would like to get I would love to have a Tesla that drives itself, but I ain't buying a Tesla. You know. But Teslas drive themselves now. You know, and they've been pretty good. Pretty good. Not 100%,
Why
but
don't we all get up a GoFundMe thing for Jeff to get a Waymo?
that's
a
thinking.
Waymo is not a car. A Waymo is a taxi company.
Oh,
You
what is
can't.
the
You
car
can't
they're
just have
driving?
one.
They're driving Mercedes, I think, is what they are. They're tricked up
They're definitely
Mercedes.
not. They're definitely not Tesla.
No, but they're tricked
see
up
them all
like
over
tricked
San
up
Francisco.
Mercedes. They're not.
Oh.
It's not that Waymo builds a EV.
Oh,
Okay, they
No, no,
buy
no.
EVs and then they trick them out with all these things on top of them going blah blah blah.
Yeah, I've seen them all over San Francisco.
Yeah, they're called autonomous vehicles.
Autonomous vehicles.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say.
And what does they cost you as far as an alternate?
But no, but you don't own them. You buy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
You,
It's
When
a
you
little
need a
more than
car-
Uber.
huh?
Yeah,
It's a little more expensive than Uber.
Yeah.
They keep the price high because the demand is so high that they wouldn't be able to even service everybody if they lowered
I think
it.
everybody just wants to try it to see
Exactly.
how they work. You know.
I've seen so many of them.
Yeah.
I see them here in my neighborhood, but you have to be invited. And I haven't been invited. I don't know how people get
Invited to what?
to be able to hail a Waymo here in Palo
really?
Alto. Yeah, they do have them.
Can you
I've seen
wave
people
them?
getting in them.
Can you wave them down?
No,
You can't wave them down. Okay.
no, you have to be invited to get on the app and be able to get one on the app. And I have the app here, but I can't do it yet.
Yeah.
I don't
'cause
know.
It's
You have to know
You know
somebody.
why? Because
I'll
it's
talk to the
you know
CEO,
why?
Ray.
You know why you don't want to do it is because it's way more than you can afford.
Yeah.
No. A friend of mine took me for a ride in one. You know, and the driver's name that was missing was Sam or something like that. And if you have a question, you address the driver. There's no driver there, but the car's name, I guess, would be Sam. And I said, Sam, could you stop at the next light? I want to get a cup of coffee or something like that. And they stop at the next light. They pull into a parking space. Stop. You go get your coffee. Get back in your Waymo, and you're fine. The only
Amazing.
trouble is in the first 3 blocks, we almost hit somebody in the crosswalk, almost sideswiped a police car, and got a cup of coffee.
I think I know, Tom, why Alan didn't want you talking that much at the beginning because he wanted to take up all the time.
No, I'm sorry.
I'm not getting in the middle of this.
Yeah.
I'm not getting in the middle of this. I just,
It was an observation. It wasn't meant to be put down in any way.
I just wanted to talk about Ed Kraft. That's all.
Yeah,
you know?
I'm glad you
I
did.
hadn't gotten a chance to talk about before.
Yeah. Richard, how are you doing?
But this week my wife is away, so I have the bed to myself. But I have to relearn like all this kitchen stuff and
All the kitchen stuff? You mean like operating
Zoom
operating
is a different animal for me than breakfast. And I like to make my own breakfast
Mm-hmm.
as a variety of things, but I didn't get into making dinner. That's been my wife's area. But now I have to get back, in touch with that.
You
Yeah,
know, there
especially
is something. There is something that you can do. I think it's called Uber.
They come right to the house.
that doesn't work way out here.
Oh,
Really?
really? Well, what does? Something's got to work out there. You got to have some. It must be a Chinese
Something like that.
restaurant that delivers.
They're everywhere. Yeah.
Where are you? Where are you?
Yeah.
Way out in Chesterfield, Virginia.
Oh,
Yeah.
How about a microwave oven?
Yeah. Well,
Do you have one of those?
I'm in a place with no Chinese food.
You know,
I grilled a nice piece of salmon from Costco. It was perfect.
really?
Yeah.
Ray is offering to come down, Richard, and take care of you this week. Cook
Yeah.
for you, clean the house.
Chesterfield. Yeah, that's okay.
But you and your wife both came back from Europe, right? Where were you exactly?
yeah, we were in Portugal for
in
3
Portugal.
weeks.
Oh, I love Portugal.
You enjoy it?
Nice.
Yes, and we have now a lot of friends there.
Uh huh.
So, and we had a great time up in Porto, which surprised me.
Yeah. I
But
love Porto.
How long were they there?
we were in 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
And
Because Marjorie and I are thinking of going there, but
9
because
days in Porto.
we want to look into like renting a house or something there. You know, it's nice, and they're very accommodating to older people too.
Everybody's so nice there.
Yeah.
People are just great.
Why don't you rent a cabin or something like that? I mean,
What about a B&B? What do they call it?
a
Airbnb?
villa. A villa is what I meant to say, not a cabin.
Are Marjorie and I the three little bears? What do you mean cabin?
I meant to say. Never mind.
Cabins?
Yeah. Why don't you go to Porto? That's a nice area. You can drink port all day long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
We're
they
looking
do
at
have a lot
Gaia,
of
which is right across the
Pretty hilly, the area.
What
isn't
were
it?
you- what were
Where
you
they're
s-
growing the port?
What were you saying?
Yes.
Yeah.
What were you saying at Richard?
Yeah, it's hilly. We were looking at Gaia, which is the town just opposite Porto. So it's more beaches.
Is that where that big wave is? Gaia?
No, no, that's you're thinking of Nazare,
Nazare. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
the 100-foot wave.
Actually, I think we
I
should.
went there and there was no waves.
I think I'm going to go down and move in next door to Josh. I think that's what I'll do. And sit there and complain about the world all day.
Yikes.
But you have faith, don't you? Are we going to get past all this, Josh?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever said that we weren't going to do that.
I mean,
Probably one of the only people on here that thought that as a matter of fact.
well, you feel this country will survive anything, is what you feel.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's been through very difficult circumstances on multiple occasions, and then incredibly difficult, to the brink of collapse circumstances on a few others. So don't get me wrong, I'm not naive to say, oh, this could never happen or that could never happen. I mean, worldwide, I'm never going to say, anything, isn't going to
Right.
happen. That's not how, the world operates. But, I'm not concerned that, the United States of America won't exist this time next year or, something along those lines. There are even if things were to go seriously awry. There are still enough people in this country that the resistance to any sort of tyrannical movement or whatever would be overwhelmingly resisted violently. So that's what I'm saying.
I'm not as sure as you are about that. You have a country here that voted in what? And allowed it to, and allowed it.
Have a very minute majority of a country that did, and I don't even know if you could really call it that because you only have a very minute majority of the people that voted in the country. Which
Well,
is not.
isn't that when you say that, isn't that bad enough? I mean, you go to other countries and the amount of people who vote is much higher than it is here. I
Well, I
mean,
don't think it's good that our participation is as low as it is. Sure, yeah, that's not good.
our participation is low, and that low participation is perfect for a takeover by a dictator of some sort. And with a bunch of people going, "Oh, go ahead, you know what you're." I mean, there are people out there probably think that all these tariffs are just fine. If Trump says they're good, then they got to be good. And quite frankly, I don't know who those morons are, but believe me, it ain't easy, you know?
Certainly is ignorance of the political system that exists. It's widespread and it's not healthy, and it's left us in bad shape. I'm certainly not currently happy with where things are. There obviously are people that currently are, thinking things are good. So, it's not a great situation in my opinion, but it's also not nearly as bad as I think things have been in the past. I mean,
Yeah, it's true. We had a civil war before.
Yeah, we had a civil war. Yeah, we had
That's
that.
true.
But also, I mean, you gotta think for a moment about this country having as an institution slavery. I mean, that's a pretty bad thing to say about this country and about the people who live in it or did live in it. But I don't think that people are impossible of doing the same thing again. I don't have as much faith in Americans as
I don't know.
as a lot of other people do.
I mean, humanity-wise, of course, people are capable of doing that again. I mean, we had since that we've had a Holocaust, we've had genocide on several continents at multiple times. Yeah, of course, as humans, people are capable of
I
that.
mean, you got to realize this is a country that during the Holocaust wouldn't take any Jews into the country.
Well, I don't know that I would say wouldn't take any. I
Well,
think
maybe they took
some of the
a
things that I
few.
hear about that are distorted and not historically correct. I think that
We turned whole
people,
boats back. We turned whole
Yeah, you
ships
should
back.
you should watch that Ken Burns documentary.
Yeah.
Isn't that
Yeah.
why we came up with the
I was
asylum
gonna
laws?
say.
Whoop.
What?
Isn't that why we came up with the asylum laws that we have because of the way that we turned the Jews back?
Yeah. So, I don't think they treated the Jews very well during World War II. I had friends who literally got away from the Holocaust, went via Spain because, but believe it or not, Franco took 1 million Jews. He said, "You can't stay here because I quite frankly can't afford to have you stay here, all of you, but we will help ship you elsewhere." And my friend wound up in Cuba, where he paid his family paid the Cuban government a fee to be made Cuban citizens so they could then immigrate into the United States. But that's what Jews had to do in order to get into this country. They shouldn't have had to. They should have, and hey, I'm Jewish. I'm bothered by the fact that that was the situation.
I mean, that's fair enough and easy to say. Again, I will say that I think
No, it's tough to say.
I think condensing down to one sentence the United States' stance on the Jewish situation prior to 1941, 42. I don't think one sentence can do that. I think that's historically incredibly unfair. The United States of America is certainly not the only country to have had the institution of slavery. Many European countries that people laud nowadays had, forms of
That's
slavery.
correct, but they're not my country. This is my country, and my country
Fair
had an
enough.
institution of slavery.
Sure did, and it fought a war and did away with it, in which
Well-
600,000 white people died.
Yeah, but also my question, and a lot of black people died too. There were black troops in the Civil War,
Right.
But I mean, I just think that the fact that it happened at all, and that we let it happen, and that we had to fight a war in order to bring it to a close, and then once we brought it to a close, we still treated black people in the South like they were crap and second-hand citizens. We were lynching them. We went from slavery to lynching them. You
You
know?
couldn't ride the bus. You couldn't eat. They couldn't eat in the place. It
Yeah.
was like they were just existing, really.
So
we had laws to back it up. We had Jim Crow laws. It wasn't even just a cultural
yeah.
thing.
So
It was legal.
all I'm saying, Josh, is that I realize that I don't want to overstate things, but on the other hand, I'm not exactly proud of this country. It does not have a good history and a good reputation for what it was, especially when it came to literally the rights of human beings. So.
I mean, again, the United States of America, like any other country in the world, has had its past, made its fair share of mistakes, and has to live with the consequences of them, and it has. But I don't know what can be done about it. I think now, I mean, today, tonight, or what it has to do with Trump or how we live our lives now, or I mean, I guess I don't know what the point of, if you don't like the United States, okay. I mean, I've never told anybody that they couldn't do that, so they're allowed to not like it. They're also allowed to leave. I mean,
No, but all I'm saying is I'm not proud of what it has been. I was taught in school, land of the free, home of the brave, but we certainly didn't walk that walk, We were just talking that talk, and that was about it. And it's still,
again, I don't see it that clear. I mean, you can say what America didn't take, and I'm paraphrasing this, and don't take it the wrong way. America didn't take 2 boatloads of Jews, so we're a terrible country. But let's not think about the few 100,000 men who died after that point to free those same Jews. I mean, do we have
believe me, World War II.
Yes, of course, but I'm just saying.
World War II wasn't fought just to free Jews. Okay.
I didn't say it was. I just said it was.
Yeah.
But let's not forget that those people would not enjoy the freedom that they have today had the United States of America not entered the war. So, okay, they didn't do. I mean, again,
let me ask you this question,
didn't do
though,
everything
Josh.
right. That's fine.
Since you're a maven of history, what was the reason we got into World War II? There had to have been some kind of reason. Not.
We got bombed by the Japanese.
We got bombed by the Japanese, but that would justify the Pacific War. But we suddenly used that as a pretext to go in and join the war in Europe as well.
Well, not really. 3 days after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor, Germany declared war on the United States of America and announced publicly that they would sink any American ships, whether they were civilian or whether they were military, whether they were hauling goods or whether they were hauling people, and that they would
there is
recognize Americans as non-combatants.
You might disagree with this, but there is a theory that Roosevelt and his people knew that Pearl Harbor was coming, and that they let it happen as a pretext to be able to get into both wars.
That's not correct at all.
Okay, I'm just saying.
They knew the Japanese might attack, but they didn't know where and they didn't know when. And I mean, that's just not how it played out.
Well, one of the reasons
they joined the war in Germany was because they believed, number one, that freeing Europe would lead to the eventual collapse of, the Axis powers and the Japanese as well. So, I mean, there were multifaceted reasons for a Germany first policy, which is what was decided upon. But even that gets overlooked because, even though Germany first was the policy, the Americans were fighting the Japanese first. You know, I mean, this
Yeah, oh,
today,
yeah.
you know,
Yeah, but
today is the anniversary of the Battle of Midway, for example, where the Japanese Navy was neutralized for offensive operations.
Yeah.
After that point, and not 6 months after that, came the invasion of a few islands in the South Pacific, including Guadalcanal.
I was led to believe and heard years ago that the United States knew about Pearl Harbor because, among other things, the Japanese delegation left a few days earlier and quit the United States, left the United States, and they knew something was going to happen.
Well, they withdrew people from their embassy, but they had already previously recognized the fact that they were canceling diplomatic relations. Typically, when you cancel diplomatic relations with people, you close your embassy and withdraw the personnel that worked in it. So, now that did coincide with their attack on Pearl Harbor.
Right.
But I think it more coincides. It's not as if that was the big sign that we should have seen. And oh my God, they just left the Japanese embassy. And the building's vacant now. My God, I bet they're going to bomb Pearl Harbor tomorrow. I mean, that's not how it worked. And, the historian's job is not to think about all these activities today. The historian's job is to transport themselves back to the time and the place that they happened,
Mm-hmm.
to sit in the chair of the people that made the decision, and only look at the information that those people had available at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Make some determinations and interpretations from there.
Anybody else have a comment about this at all?
Starting point.
Anybody?
Weren't we of the notion that we were too far away for Japan to have any effective strike on Pearl Harbor? Weren't we mistaken about that?
Well, I never could figure out where were they hanging out waiting
Well, they had
Pearl Harbor.
They had aircraft carriers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, you couldn't find each other's fleets at that time the way that we can now.
Well, I mean, today it could never happen. We would see it so coming, it would be amazing,
Right. Yeah, an attack like that wouldn't be necessary now. Now it would be a ballistic missile from a submarine. I mean.
Yeah.
Or drone.
Yeah.
Well, there
That
would be a
works
new technology to resolve these kind of.
Well, it's all pretty scary, the technology we have now,
I mean, there are fair arguments about, the Pearl Harbor attack. I mean, don't get me wrong. Kimmel was warned that the Japanese fleet, that, no one could find it. They didn't know where it was. That attack on Pearl was possible. He probably should have taken some action. He didn't. I mean, there's super fair complaints about, some of the actions that people, no different than we see today.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the point, is you have to put yourself in their place, their time.
Yeah.
No death in front of them. You can't look at it through today's lens.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so we continue to go with more of this craziness and this nuttiness that's going on. And I guess I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. I don't think you have, right, Tom?
No.
And
The only thing I can think of, and to sort of justify what something that Josh says, maybe we've bottomed out. Maybe we've hit the absolute bottom, that there's nowhere else to go but up.
well, that's
That's
true
the only
too.
thing I can think of.
That's true too. We may learn our lesson out of this, although
We might.
I
think so?
I doubt it. However, Anyway, hey, listen. Thanks to all of you for joining me tonight. There are far more here than I thought would be here tonight. It's nice to have Jeff with us as always, and Alan. Thank you so much, Josh. Great at the history lessons every time we ask you a question about them. Richard, welcome back from Portugal. And by the way, you called me and wanted to talk about Bitcoin, and we'll have you explain it to me on another trip here. Okay? All right. Tom, thank you. Thank you to Tony, and thank you to Ray. All of you. Give a big wave goodbye, and I'll give a big wave goodbye at you. Okay, there they go, folks. That's our citizens panel for tonight. Next is Amy Manuel. She's going to be here with the intersection, and she'll be taking your calls by you going to column 2. Excuse me, is it column 3 or is it column 2? I can't remember. Take one from column A and one from column B. You go over to column 3 on gabnet.net, and down at the bottom there's my name and there's Amy's name. You click on her and you'll be able to call her. See you again tomorrow night. Same time, same station in life. In the meantime, as always, if you see her, tell her I love her, okay? Good night, everybody.